Boyhood is an undeniable cinematic achievement, but it almost wasn't a movie at all. Richard Linklater's Boyhood was nominated for 6 Oscars 10 years ago this winter, so here are some things I bet you never knew about it. The story behind Boyhood starts in 2002, when writer-director Richard Linklater first felt the urge to tell a coming-of-age story that would depict a young boy's entire childhood. Except he had no idea how he would make that into a movie. So instead, he thought maybe he should do it as a novel. But as he later explained, just as my fingers hit the keyboard, the whole film popped into my head, proving that I'm not a novelist, I'm a filmmaker. He took inspiration from the Up films, a long-running UK documentary series that followed 14 kids starting at age 7 into adulthood with a new installment every 7 years. Linklater realized that he could do a fictional version of that about one boy and shoot it a little bit at a time over many years. He had general ideas about the story and journey the characters would go on. He drew inspiration for the parent characters from his real-life parents. His dad was also an insurance agent who divorced his mother and remarried, while his mother did resume her education later in life and became a therapist. But he intentionally didn't write a full script, allowing for the story to evolve over time. With just a pitch for this extremely ambitious project, Linklater found trouble getting financing. It's hard to understate just how revolutionary this movie would be. There was no Hollywood precedent for a 12-year film project. Just think about all the things that could go wrong over that long period of time. Linklater said, quote, "It never did make sense on paper, and it still doesn't. Artists get it. Business people glaze over. They're like, you're asking me to give money, and I'm not going to see a return for 12 years? Luckily, the people at IFC were interested in this wild idea, and they agreed to give Linklater $200,000 a year for 12 years, eventually totaling $2.4 million. And so in May 2002, Linklater and IFC announced the project, with the director saying, "I've long wanted to tell the story of a parent-child relationship that follows a boy from the 1st through the 12th grade and ends with him going off to college. But the dilemma is that kids change so much that it is impossible to cover that much ground, and I'm totally ready to adapt the story to whatever he is going through." Then came casting. The entire project hinged on its lead actor. Linklater needed someone to anchor the film for 12 years. And so he started looking for a Texas-based child with some acting experience. 6-year-old Eller Coltrane fit the bill, as they had already made some commercials and an indie film. Linklater told The Guardian, quote, "I had met a lot of kids, but liked his demeanor. He was cool, thoughtful, a little mysterious, ethereal. I liked what he talked about, the way his thoughts worked." The director said he could tell the other kids he saw, quote, would have grown up to be athletes, student council presidents, made their parents proud. But Eller, quote, was the kind who was going to be his own guy. He had not come out of a cookie cutter. For the father, Linklater turned to his friend and frequent collaborator, Ethan Hawke. Linklater told the actor that if he, the director, died over the next 12 years, Hawke would have to finish directing the movie. Linklater then cold called Patricia Arquette about participating, and she was interested right away, but she wanted to see a script. Linklater, of course, didn't have one, but he did explain the character and the changes she would go through, which got Arquette on board officially. For the daughter, Linklater conveniently cast his real-life daughter, Lorelai, who was 8 years old when they started. California law states you can't contract someone for more than 7 years of work, so the cast committed to the film without signing legal contracts. And then in summer 2002, they started filming in Linklater's home state of Texas. Over the years, they shot in Austin, Houston, San Marcos, and Alpine. Linklater shot the movie on 35mm film because it guaranteed a consistent image over time. The director stuck to his original plan of shooting a few days every year for 12 years. The cast and crew would meet once or twice a year, always on different dates, to film for 3 or 4 days at a time. But those days required a lot of prep and post time. Every annual shoot required 2 months of pre-production and 1 month of post-production. Linklater wrote the script as the years went on, with input from the actors. He'd write the following year's pages after seeing how the story was evolving on set. And sometimes he'd write scenes the night before shooting them. Linklater said, quote, "It almost didn't feel like a movie. We had the luxury of just so much thinking time. Each year we were watching it, adding to what we shot before and editing that, just living with it and thinking, what does this film need?" Once they had the script pages, the actors stuck to what was written. Ethan Hawke says the only thing that was improvised in the whole movie is the discussion about future Star Wars movies. When Patricia Arquette became the lead on the TV show Medium, she had to film her Boyhood scenes on her weekends off from the show. Hawke called the production one of the most unique and strange things he's ever done. Quote, "Doing a scene with a young boy at the age of 7 when he talks about why do raccoons die, and then age 12 when he talks about video games, and 17 when he asks me about girls, and have it be the same actor to watch his voice and body morph. It's a little bit like time-lapse photography of a human being." Costume designer Carrie Perkins took extra precautions not to repeat outfits, as the progress of time had to be reflected in the new clothes the characters would wear. Despite the massive risk IFC was taking by investing in the film, Linklater was given nearly complete freedom to execute the project as he saw fit. The studio didn't set a release date until Linklater was ready, and it never asked to see dailies or his progress over the 12 years. Throughout production, Linklater was calling the movie Boyhood, but in 2013 he decided he wanted to call it 12 Years, which explained exactly what the movie movie was. Unfortunately, 12 Years a Slave was about to come out, so he had to go back to Boyhood. The film shot its final days with the now 18-year-old Eller Coltrane in 2013. In total, they shot 143 scenes over 45 actual filming days with a crew of 400 people. And then they premiered at the Sundance Film Festival and followed by the Berlin Festival, where Linklater won the Silver Bear for Best Director. Boyhood opened in limited release in the US on July 11th before expanding to 771 theaters total on August 15th, 2014. The film eventually grossed $57.3 million against its $2.4 million budget. Critics were blown away by Linklater's epic project. Today, 97% of the 332 reviews assessed by Rotten Tomatoes are positive. It has a perfect 100 score on Metacritic, an achievement no movie has managed since, and it made more critics' top 10 lists than any other film that year. Christopher Nolan called it his favorite movie of 2014, and Alejandro Iñárritu, who ended up beating Linklater for the Oscar that year, sent Linklater a personal email thanking him for this incredible gift. Michael Apted, the director of the 7 Up documentary series, told Linklater, quote, "Keep going." It was nominated for 196 major awards, winning 105 of them. It was nominated for 6 Oscars total: Best Editing, Original Screenplay, Supporting Actress for Patricia Arquette, Supporting Actor for Ethan Hawke, Best Director, and Best Picture. But Patricia Arquette was the only one who went home with the trophy that night for Boyhood. That said, it did win Best Director and Best Picture at the BAFTAs, as well as the Golden Globes. Boyhood has had quite the legacy. In 2017, the New York Times called it the 8th best film of the century so far. In 2019, The Guardian said it was the 3rd best movie of the century so far. And in 2021, Time Out ranked it number 91 on its list of the 100 best movies ever made. Just 2 weeks ago, director Pablo Larraín wrote an article about how much he loves Boyhood. Quote, "This movie is very important to me. It lives in my heart. I admire everyone who did this film. When I grow up, I would like to make a movie as good as this one." In 2015, The Simpsons did an entire episode parodying Boyhood called Barthood. And in general, the experience Linklater had on Boyhood gave him the confidence to make Before Sunset and Before Midnight, which similarly tell the story of 2 characters over several years. Also, he's now currently in production on another Boyhood-esque project, Merrily We Roll Along, based on the Stephen Sondheim musical. Merrily tells the story of 3 friends over the course of 20 years, told in reverse chronological order. Linklater has cast Paul Mescal, Ben Platt, and Beanie Feldstein as the leads, and they are shooting it, like Boyhood, a few days at a time over the course of 2 decades.